and welcome to DeepDive Talent Insights and Analytics channel. This is I Think I Love My Job. If you've been here before, welcome back. I've missed you. If this is your first time here, thank you for joining me. If you don't know me, I am Kalifa Oliver, the resident expert in all things employee experience here at DeepDive. What are we going to talk about today? Storytelling. Let's go. Let me give you a little bit of a background on me. When I was younger, I entered a lot of storytelling competitions. I was good. I had one main rival. She always beat me, but I was good. And I've always liked the idea of being able to paint a picture for somebody and help them see what has jumped off pages for me. This, you don't let anything get in the way of a good story, right? So combine my love of stories and storytelling with my passion for data and all things employee experience and people data related, and you have a match made in nude heaven. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So we've talked about insights in a previous episode of this series, and I did mention that insights are the foundation of storytelling with data. Why would you want to storytell with data? It sounds a little iffy, right? But storytelling is exactly what I described when I say I like to tell stories. It allows the audience to best hear and understand what you're trying to convey. With data, it can often be extremely technical. It's a good first step when you have insights, because insights allow the user and the stakeholder that you're reporting to get more context than if you had just given them a bunch of numbers, some descriptive data, and say, hey, have fun with that. It begins to tell the story, but you need to weave all these insights together in order to get a broader picture of what is going on within the organization and what leadership needs to know. It establishes the pattern of what's going on. So the key things that you need when you really want to storytell with data, of course, the data, but particularly insights from data, you also want to have lots of visualization. And when I say visualization, I'm not just simply talking about a dashboard. Dynamic reporting is always good, but you also want to think about your static reporting, which will be what you would hand somebody to look at, or a presentation that you would give somebody. You want to make sure that the visuals that you present make it easy for somebody who has to read it and make sense of it, be able to use shortcuts in their mind in order to understand what you're trying to say. You don't want to make your audience glaze over every time you show up in the office, anytime they get an email from you. You want to ensure that they are engaged in what you're saying, and you do want that when you give them a report or reporting feature, which could be playing around with a dashboard, which could be a report that has graphics on it, you want to make sure that they can be almost surrounded by the information that you're giving them at the time. And that's what storytelling with data is all about. It's about taking that data and bringing it to life. It's about taking the insights and weaving it together so that this picture emerges that is conversational, that is not intimidating, that is easier to follow up on and ask questions about and really have some robust discussion about. Often when it's just technical, they're questions. They're questions in the head of many people. It doesn't appeal to everybody, especially when things are text heavy. It often causes a glaze over, and not often because they want to, but often because it's off-putting to see that much. And imagine when you do continuous listening programs, all the news that you have isn't good. So asking somebody to use all the cognitive energy they have to really go through what you want them to go through is hard. Remember that I said when you develop a survey, you want your users, your respondents, to use as little cognitive energy as possible trying to figure out your format format and all that type of stuff. You want all their energy to be used answering a survey and giving you good data. It's very similar for when you do reporting. You want to storytell because you want your audience, your stakeholders, to use as little cognitive energy as possible, wading through everything that you're trying to say and get to the point. Paint me a picture on what's going on. Help me understand what that means. What does that mean for my organizational health? The more data you have, the easier it is to tell that story, but you've got to make sure that when you have all of this data, it's not just jumping off the page and screaming at the person who has to read your story. It's not fun. I often joke that a lot of leaders and executives are like toddlers who don't ask as many questions, but they sign your paycheck. So you've got to think in advance of them for things that may be important to them and ways to tell it, be it using the language, be it using the right graphics, be it using the right colors. You want to make sure the UX, that is the user design of any tool that you're using to give them dynamic reporting, is easy and intuitive, and it tells the story of what they're trying to know. Storytelling with data is not easy. It's very much not easy because you have to learn how to simplify your thinking and think for someone else. You have to think of what they are looking for. You have to think of the elements of the stories that need to be highlighted. You need to think of what the data is saying vertically, horizontally, across businesses, across people. You've got to be able to make sure your insights fall in the right place. You've got to make sure that the order of it makes sense to the problems that are trying to be solved. You want to also make sure that when you highlight solutions or potential actions, that it fits within the course of your story and it just makes sense. A good data storyteller pulls you in. A good storyteller is exciting. A good storyteller will give you negative information, but somehow you feel okay. A good storyteller with data understands that data can be your friend and you can be a partner, and you are there to help. When you do good data storytelling, your voice is in the room even when you're not there, as long as what you've written, created, designed is in the room with the stakeholder. A good storyteller, and this is with data, leaves an impression, leaves a mark. A good data storyteller builds trust with the stakeholder. It takes time to get there, it takes work to get there, it takes listening and feedback and a true understanding of your stakeholders. You have to care. You have to care about the data. You have to care about the outcomes. When you do those things, what you produce, it shows it. I leave you with this. Data storytelling is a little bit of art with science. I encourage you, if this is a skill that you're trying to build, to work with people who have backgrounds in communications, work with people who have backgrounds in graphic design, do a lot of quality control of your reports, and after a while it starts to make sense. You start to understand how to use space. You start to understand how to pick things that are important. You start to understand how to say very similar things but in different ways and present it in different ways that can grab the eye, that can make it intuitive to make a decision, that uses less cognitive energy to understand what you're doing. I promise you, once you get there and you understand how to do it, it is so amazing. It's so fun, and it is an amazing skill for anybody with a data background. In people analytics, it's especially important because people data could be daunting. People data is very dynamic. It changes a lot. People are just darn unpredictable. And so it often means you have to adapt the story to what's happening. It's like improv sometimes, but with science behind it. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it's helpful. I encourage you to storytell with the data that you get. If you have any thoughts or ideas about storytelling with data, please leave it in the comments. If you like what you see and hear, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. And as always, I leave you with this: there is always room to have a brilliant experience. Bye.